Welcome to the bonus level.
Hello again, and welcome back to the Bonus Level Podcast. I am Jack, and I have Josh with me.
Hello.
And returning again this week, back by popular demand, Jacob Brown.
That's debatable.
Well, that's neither here nor there. We got an overwhelming response on level 48, and just basically forced us into this situation to bring you back for another week, the week right after. So we went through all kinds of stuff with morality last week on level 48, and this level we're going to get into all kinds of fun stuff this week. And by fun, I mean we're going to be talking about survival scenarios and what it takes to be a Survivorman. Now, I was being serious when I say back by popular demand, but more importantly, as someone that has lived in the Amazon rainforest, you have some insight into this topic, right, Jake?
Yeah, I wasn't very good at it, though.
So we won't say that you're an expert. However, out of the three of us, you have lived in the most exotic places.
I didn't die.
You did not die. You came back.
Right.
And so maybe your experience and your half expertise in these matters are going to help further the discussion along. So to give kind of a broad overview, we're going to go through our take on popular survival shows, what's real, what's not. We're going to take an actual survival skills quiz as if the three of us were stranded somewhere and we had to answer these questions to see if we would survive or if we would die. And then we're also going to talk about, actual survival scenarios where like you think that you have the best chance for survival, right? Like, whether it be cold, warm, tropics, plane crash, boat sinking, etc. Right? So we're going to go through a little bit of that. So to start us off, I think, I don't know, maybe I'm speaking as just a male in general, and I don't want to like go down that road too far, but I like survival scenarios. I like talking about survival scenarios. I like thinking about post-apocalyptic things and, worst case scenarios, right? That's not a just me thing, right? That's just like a general.
Is there anything else to daydream about?
Well, that's debatable.
I mean, you're just sitting there at work and you just imagine like something happens.
Zombies just came through this
or we get
right
robbed.
here.
What am I gonna do? Or whatever. That's everything.
Worst case scenarios in general, fun to think about, fun to watch movies on, TV shows, etc. I think maybe it's just testosterone based, right? You like can kind of amps up that like, oh man, I could definitely survive. Or if I was in this situation, I would definitely be coming out on top.
Yeah.
Right. But we know that the real life isn't like the movies, isn't like TV, etc. So, Jake, why don't you tell us? I know again you weren't an expert at it, but you've seen like real roughing it conditions, right? Like you've been in those places. So give us more of like an overview, a broad overview of like what real roughing it looks like in like those scenarios.
Yeah. So for us, early in the morning, everybody got up. We slept basically under the stars in the Amazon. And first thing first, you got to go get some bait because you are probably going to be looking for food for the rest of the day. So found crickets and grasshoppers, which I'm pretty bad at catching, especially because you're having to grab into bushes and you can't see anything around. And everything you've heard about the Amazon is, all right, everything in the Amazon wants to kill you. So let me just stick my hand into this bush because I know there's a grasshopper there. And I've already seen tarantulas, but don't worry about the tarantulas or the snakes or anything else. All right, well, whatever. So you have your grasshoppers. We rip the legs off because you can't have one of them jump away from you because then that's, you don't have bait. And then basically for the next 5 hours, you're just going to be fishing, which was an amazing experience, but also showed my last lack of fishing skills, but we were able to procure enough to make a meal. So then it's just eating and telling stories and uh, conserving energy and staying hydrated. I mean, that was pretty much it. I mean, it sounds kind of simple, but as long as you have a way to make a fire and a way to get some sort of food or water, you're not gonna die if you don't
Right.
if you don't exert yourself or like, hey, let me go explore this cave. You'll be okay.
Well, I mean, so but there's a lot of like trees, as far as, I don't mean like physical trees, but I mean like paths that we're going to take out from each one of those scenarios, though, right? Like we're fishing for 5 hours, we're finding bait and fishing and then cooking, making a fire, but that's all dependent on the weather being good, right? It's not raining, right? It's not like it hasn't been raining for a week, so not everything's not mud, things like that. So in those situations, obviously every single day, dependent on the weather, dependent on circumstances, isn't going to be you wake up, you get bait, you fish, you eat, you make a fire, you go to sleep, right?
Right.
Like,
I mean, I ate plenty of bugs on the trip.
Really?
So, yeah.
okay. Like what kind? What are we talking about?
Like usually they would eat these big yellowish grubs. They were the most. I don't. Okay, imagine if you packaged a zit, but in like an inch long worm with a giant head that wanted to bite you. All right,
Okay.
but the skin was like leathery tough, so you had to like dig at
Chew
it,
into
and
it.
then it
Yeah.
burst open like curd milk.
Okay.
And then the
So what does
taste,
it taste like?
yeah, yeah, exactly like you'd think that.
A zit would taste like?
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, you gotta get your protein, you gotta get your food, and you know, on the days that are good, you gotta make the most of it. I mean, I remember we were just in the boat and heading back to camp, and we passed by one of the villages, and there was like a 4-year-old boy who was fishing out on the dock, and he was just fish after fish, and he would get the fish up, bigger than any fish I caught while I was there, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And he would just take the string and then smack the fish, knock it out, put it, hook it, throw another line out. It was incredible. So it was like, okay, you gotta stockpile, be ready for the future.
Okay, so then that begs the question of like, all right, so you catch 12 fish in one day. You're not eating all 12 fish. How do you keep the fish okay?
Well, I mean, fortunately they've been there long enough. I mean, they had some preserving ways with different leaves and maybe some salt or
Is it
something
like
like
leaves and salt, or like what is it?
that.
Like,
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what was the spice. I mean, they had some of the amenities that you would normally see. Like one of them had a gun, though we never used the gun while we were there. But it was sort of just in case, there was like a jaguar or something like that.
Okay.
But yeah.
So then a little bit further, and as far as like at your camp, because we're talking about, you guys were out in the rainforest for how many days? Because that's away from the camp.
5.5, basically, like
Okay, so almost a week.
4 nights. 4 nights. Yeah.
What was the purpose of going out? Just to be out there?
Yeah, I mean, there was an opportunity to stay in the Amazon. Like you said, you daydream about these survival things. I wanted to do it.
Okay.
And it was an opportunity. My friend was living in Colombia, and he had some connections of, I guess, sort of a tour thing, but it was not a tour thing, as in we went to
it's not a tourist attraction, right? Yeah, it's like,
no, it was probably like 2 hours away from the tourist-y kind of place, but even that was, for most people, would be roughing it. But like when we got to our campsite, there was nothing. We cut down logs. We had like a little like tarp roof, but it was just like a mosquito net.
Mhm.
And then we hung up some just cloth hammocks, and then put some tarp downs, because if you put any bags on the ground, they'll be covered in bugs, which happened to my friend on the first night, and he was very upset because it was covered. Like, I've never seen so many bugs in a backpack. Like, it was insane. It was in
Is
his
it just because
underwear. It
it's
was
like
in.
it's just because it's dark and it's a place to like crawl inside something?
I think there's just that many bugs there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you put tarps down. So why did the tarps keep bugs off?
Don't know. Don't know. Yeah. There was a lot of stuff lost in translation because obviously English wasn't the native
Sure.
language. My friend spoke Spanish, which he could translate, but even that was Spanish was their second language. So, and then my Spanish is not good enough if I'm speaking to somebody whose second language is that. So,
Right.
yeah. So I think it was more, if they're coming from the ground, it was a little bit more awkward to walk on it for the bugs. And
Gotcha. Okay.
Mhm.
So what did you bring with you to like a situation like that? So you're staying at a camp, like an actual camp that's away from you went to a campsite that's away from your actual camp. So what did you
Right.
bring with you?
So I had a multi-tool, which I guess I didn't really have to bring. I brought a water filter, but we ended up we brought a jug of water that we were able to be used for all of us. I was really worried about like what sort of clothing I would actually need, because I knew it was super hot, but also super wet. And rain boots. If you go to the Amazon, rain boots. Okay, like the big rubber rain boots. Anybody that goes down there, you don't want any of the other ones. I mean, you're gonna go like knee high in mud half the time. So rain boots are a must because they're easy to clean off. They're easy to just dump in the water or whatever and dry them out. Um, yeah, but I mean, like the people who actually live there, they're like in shorts, no shirt, just like, yeah, it's fine. They're barefoot half the time, or most of the time.
So
So
is it something with just being born there? Like they don't get
yeah,
bit by mosquitoes and they're not like, they're just impervious to the
they're not impervious.
elements?
I mean, they're used to it, and let me tell you some stories. So, for example, Heigl, who was our main guide. Well, there was two Heigls. There was Big Heigl and Little Heigl. All right. So Big Heigl, he was our main one, and he was basically the hunter for his village. Well, one of many. And so he talked about one time. It was late at night. It was dark. He was walking around, and a tarantula crawled on him, and he didn't know what it was because it was dark, and he just brushed it off. But as you may know, they shoot out their bristles, which caused like an irritation, sort of like a rash.
Yeah,
And
for
his like
sure.
whole side of his body was just covered in a rash. And he's like a 2-day hike from back home. And I mean, they get it too. However, they're much less likely to have these things happen than it would be for me, who hasn't seen anything. Another example of this is when we were coming back from a fishing trip, and the river, I think they said in the course of a day, the river can rise or fall 100 meters.
Wow.
Maybe that's an exaggeration, but regardless, from what I saw, I think that's true. Like, islands are there and then they're gone. So being able to understand sort of the landscape, even with all that, is incredible. So we're coming back from a fishing trip, and he stops the boat, and everybody's like pointing. Well, him, Heigl, Big Heigl, and Little Heigl, they're pointing over at the spot, and they're like, "Oh, there's pigs here," and they were like, "Oh, a couple of them already passed and swam across the river, and don't worry, if we stay here, the rest of the pigs will come across the river." And we're like, "I'm just seeing the side of a cliff. I don't see anything. There's just some trees or whatever." It's like, what are you talking about? All right, so we're waiting there, and then we see another boat come by, and then they're all pointing at the exact same spot, yelling, and they're like, "Yeah, we know." And we're just like, my buddy Brian and I, we're just looking at each other like, what are they talking about? Sure enough, like an hour later, like 20 pigs just slide down that exact same spot of the thing that they pointed out, swam across. I would have never known that. Like,
So how did they know?
I have no idea. They just like, oh, like that leaf was turned the wrong way. I don't know.
Like,
You know
how
what
do
I
they
mean?
look at a track like that or evidence and they can tell that only half of the pack of
Right.
pigs went through there?
When everything looks like it's just been washed over by like a giant rain. Like, how do you track something after a huge rain? You have to live it. And obviously they lived it their whole life. So
I think the real lesson there is that there was a big production and they were just showing off. They had like other friends with like a penned up pack of pigs, and they just sent them down the hill for you to like make them good.
Yeah, I mean that crossed their mind, but they didn't have. I mean, the whole once we actually went back to the village, the whole village was like super. The mood had changed. They were all super excited, and they're like, "Oh, we haven't had pig in a while. We're super excited. We know all these pigs are there." And that night, a lot of them, and actually that next morning, even like one of the kids had like a little piglet on a string. I had a little video of that, and it wasn't that because actually because of like deforestation, different things. Like I said, when Heigl had to go and you had like a 2-day hike back, it's like they're having to go further and further to actually hunt for food. So they're not going to put a whole big show on just for 2 people because it was just me and Brian on the. It wasn't like, oh, there's these 20 people. There's this German couple and this French, No, just me and Brian. So I don't think they would put on a show with 20 pigs across the river, just for us.
Sure,
but
and obviously I'm being facetious there, because it's just, it's amazing that the difference in experience and what that means and that's exactly what we're talking about for survival. So, I mean, obviously you had probably, even as rough as that was, it could have been a lot rougher. Like, we're not talking about survival scenario, right? In that aspect, you were just kind of roughing it for a week in the jungle.
Yeah,
right?
for sure. Like, if you put another week, or if you took the guides out of it, Brian and I would be dead in like 2 days, for sure. Yeah.
Right. So that's actually where I was going with that. Because like Josh, so you've been listening to this, and obviously most of these stories anyway. But if you put yourself in, first of all, putting yourself in Jake's shoes, do you think that you A, would want to do that same thing, and B, could like do those things of eating the grubs and catching the bugs and then fishing? In a non-survival scenario, in a scenario where like I just want to go rough it for a week.
Oh no, I love that kind of stuff. I have not done much camping in a long time, and it bums me out. Like, back in college, there was a lot of camping trips. Usually, 2-3 times a year we would go camping. I remember even one time Rob and I went camping, and normally we would just go up to the mountains near us and then stay like a weekend or something like that. But we had one time where Rob and I decided we weren't going to take anything except for one bag of rice, from like the grocery store or whatever. We're like, worst case scenario, we need to eat something. We have a pot with some water. We'll boil some rice and we'll be able to eat some rice. But other than that, the only thing we're going to eat is what we found out here. And so basically the only things because this was like a public camping spot, so it wasn't like you could actually go hunting or anything. So the only thing we found were like worms and snails. So we tossed them in the water, we boiled them, and then ate them.
Oh my gosh.
I mean,
how'd that taste?
They taste exactly like dirt.
Yeah.
Worms taste 100% like dirt, even if you boil them for 20 minutes. So
mine were still wiggling.
Oh, you ate them alive.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, have you seen, it's on my Instagram. You should see this thing, how big they are. They're terrifying.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm not like a wuss or anything, but something.
I love what's coming next, by the way. I'm not a wuss, but
something weirds me out about biting into A gross gut-filled worm, man. I don't know what it is. The thought of like biting into it and just having it kind of like that little pop inside your mouth. Yeah, I don't know, man.
Well, yeah, you're not supposed to enjoy that. That's like it. I mean, yeah, but you still want to do it. You want to experience it.
No, see, that's what separates me from you. Is as much as I'd like to camp out in the Amazon, unless it's a survival situation, like I don't really want to eat a bug. You know,
Is that just?
like,
I mean, the grubs are definitely some of the worst sounding things. But like,
yeah, like
would
I'll
you
catch a
ever eat
fish.
like a cricket or a grasshopper, or have you ever had any of those?
No, no, it goes back to exactly what I just said. Like, unless I
See, I've
need
had
it,
like
Never?
chocolate covered crickets and
no,
grasshoppers and stuff.
unless I need it to survive, like I have no reason. I watch my spiders eat crickets, man. Like
Yeah.
they smell disgusting. Okay, I have no desire to eat one just to be like, yeah, I was roughing it. I ate a cricket.
Yeah.
Like, no,
Well,
I'll catch a fish or
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, there was that too, and absolutely. But I mean, like, even when I was at restaurants in Korea, there's like this,
Oh, I
like
know.
Mexican
Yeah, yeah.
places have like chips. They have these like little like silkworms,
Right.
and my friends were just popping them. Obviously, you got to try them because I mean, if your friends are all like, "Oh, these are really good," it's like, well, I should at least give it a try. When in Rome,
How does it taste?
it was horrible.
Right.
It was awful.
Right.
But
Right.
but I am a better person because I tried it.
No,
And now I
well,
know. And now I
yeah.
know. Because like there's been plenty of things I've tried that I thought I would not like that I end up loving.
Sure, and it's definitely cultural, right? It's because like I grew up and it was like I will never eat snails, I'll never eat octopus, like I'm not eating, raw fish, blah blah blah. Like I was growing up, that's just how I was raised. But like as soon as I, could think for myself, I was like, oh yeah, why not? I think the first time I tried snails, I was like with my aunt and uncle, and they were like, we were at an expensive restaurant, and they're like, oh yeah, we're getting snails, and we're getting calamari, we're getting escargot, we're getting this, and I'm just like, okay, like, and then I'm in a survival situation because it's like
thing.
you either eat it and like play along, or you like chicken out and you
Starve
waste
to death before breakfast.
and you waste it because it's like, well, they're buying it and it's
Yeah.
expensive. Like you don't want to insult them. So I did it, and the first time I had a snail, I was like, this is like a stuffed mushroom. How have I not been eating this all my life? This is
Yeah.
great. It tastes amazing. And then like the calamari was fried, so it was like onion rings. I'm like, this
Fried
tastes.
calamari.
I'm like, this tastes great. Like, why did I think that was not like this? Like, it's a little rubbery, but like it tastes good.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's just perception, right? So maybe chocolate covered crickets are the same way. I don't think that would be the case. I don't want to eat a cricket, and again, I stress the fact that unless I'm dying, I'm not popping crickets and bugs, worms, grubs in my mouth. Unless I'm like, look, it's either this or I die. And I'm like, well, I don't want to die, so I'll eat this, even though it's going to be disgusting.
No,
Well,
I completely agree.
I want to also add that it's not like the taste, it stays with you forever. It's like you eat it.
Not. Nothing
and then
does.
it's gone. Yeah. So it's just like you try it. It's like, okay, worst case scenario, you get food poisoning. Right? But
Which is terrible, by the way.
Most likely, like worst case scenario, it tastes bad for like what? 5 minutes you have a taste in your mouth if you can't wash it out fast enough.
Maybe.
So 5 minutes of your life of just smelling or tasting something bad is worth you just never even trying it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. I'll tell you why. So let me give you some background. And maybe this has a lot to do with, my decisions as far as this stuff goes, though. But as a child, I was forced to eat Brussels sprouts. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Forced. I'm saying like I was not allowed to leave the table. I would sit at the dinner table for 6 hours because I just I would refuse to eat them. Right.
Such a Jack thing to do.
So much. What, to sit there and not eat them?
Yeah. I don't have time for that. Come on. 6 hours for that 5 minute of taste.
It was so revolting to me that
even today.
I'm getting there.
Oh,
So
okay.
when I was growing up, I would sit there for hours, and it actually that scarred me to the point where now, if somebody makes them or mentions that they're making them, I actually like I feel the physical like nausea, like I want to throw up.
Oh my
If
God.
if I like am around them, I smell them, somebody talks about cooking them, I will like literally get that like don't please stop. Like that's what will happen to me.
So crazy. I
So
love Brussels sprouts.
stop. We don't need to do that. We don't need to talk about that. But no, I'm just kidding. But that's kind of where I'm at with certain things. So for me, like trying something versus not trying something, if I relate it to anything that could be nausea inducing, I it's not like a make or break for me. Like I'm not gonna like, oh, I'm missing life experience if I don't eat a cricket. Like I'm good.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a question that actually pertains to our topic.
Sure.
So, I think one thing that's also important is you said you were not going to eat it unless it's like a survival thing for you.
Yeah.
So, at what point does it become for survival? Because, in my opinion, if you eat it right away, so you have that energy before waiting till you're starving to eat it, is a way better survival.
Yeah. I mean,
No, right?
obviously, big part of any survival technique or tactic is to keep your energy up. Like you don't want to be so weak that you can't move, and I have hunger, thirst, whatever it might be. Like so, yeah. I mean, in a survival situation, it depends on the scenario, right? It depends on location. It depends on circumstance. I think that if I'm stranded in the rainforest, right, and I don't have a fishing pole or anything sharp that I know for sure I'm going to catch a fish or a rodent or a bird or something like that, and I know for sure, then I'm going to be foraging, right? Like you said, you catching bait, maybe you can, make some sort of fishing pole, whatever it might be, and you're going to use that bait, but at the same time, you need that energy. So I think that as soon as you're in a life or death situation, regardless of time frame, I think that that's whenever all the bets are off.
Yeah.
If that
Like
makes
you
sense.
stumble out of the airplane that's just crashed. You're in the
Right.
Amazon.
You're in a survival situation
By
right
day
then.
2, you're starting to eat some crickets.
Yeah, at the latest, maybe even that evening. Like, if you need to eat and you still haven't found anything, it's one thing to be like, oh, I'm a little hungry. To be like, I'm literally starting to starve.
Yeah.
All right, let me throw this scenario at you. You're going hiking or camping with some friends,
Yeah.
and you step off the path a little bit by yourself, and then you find yourself 1 hour you can't find anyone. At what point do you start eating grubs?
Where are we hiking or camping?
Let's say in the Amazon. We've been in the Amazon so far.
Okay.
You're in the
So
Amazon.
we're in the Amazon.
You're hiking with some friends, but you get separated, and it's been about an hour, and you haven't found your way back, and you haven't heard.
If it's been an hour and I haven't heard from them, and I can't reach them on my sat phone that I'm sure that I have, I'm upset. I'm probably approaching like full Survivorman mode. Like I've probably already cut my pants in half. One's tied, like one leg is tied around my head, like as a bandana. I've probably already fashioned the other leg as like some sort of makeshift tent somewhere.
Pants legs are really nice, though. I'm just saying. I keep my legs covered.
No, I think that, yeah, I mean, if it's already been an hour and you can't find them, I mean, you want to stay positive and try to like maintain rationale, right? Like maintain some sort of logistical approach to what you're doing and not just like wandering in circles. But at the same time, like you have to start thinking, preparing, planning. I mean, I think that's the whole point of our discussion or part of the survival is not panicking and not just being like wow, 1 hour in, I'm not just going to be like starting to dig up grubs. Like I don't, you know what I mean? It an hour, right? I think it depends on the time.
A grub, are you going to walk
save
by
it.
it?
No, no, I think you
pick it?
definitely keep it, because either you're saving it to catch something bigger, right? A bird or something else, a fish, or you can then eat it later, because they're not going to die in a few hours, right? Like outside of dirt. So yeah, I definitely think you come across anything useful, you're already starting to forage. You already have that in mind. You're already thinking about it. So I think it's important. Hopefully, though, again, sat phone, so they're going to come find me, or I'm going to get through, because we're not talking about, again, plane crash. You're disoriented, stumbling out of the wreckage, and we're in a lost scenario where like you're using part of the fuselage as like a tent, and you're building a shelter and stuff.
Yeah.
Although I think
definitely very different examples.
it's funny to to think about this too, because you guys have seen the movie The Village, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So obviously it's not a survival scenario, but the spoiler, if you haven't seen The Village, at the end they're living in like a compound, right in like a state forest. So they're literally a quarter mile, a mile away from a major road through a forest that they could somebody could stumble over the wall and find the real civilization. So my fear in those scenarios is like never not going far enough, or not like going the right direction to find what could be help or civilization or something. You know what I mean? Like, say you're in a plane crash and you have no idea where you are, you're disoriented, wreckage everywhere, stuff's on fire, and it's like, all right, so for the night or for that day you set up a camp, and like you want to make sure that you're okay, you have food, whatever it might be. But then the next day you're going to start like surveying the area, like seeing where you are, like you're going to try to if nobody has showed up rescue wise yet, like you want to try to see where you're at. So if you go north, say you go north a day's hike and back, nothing, and then you go like east, day's hike and back, and like south, but maybe you needed to go northeast a day's hike, and like there's a village, or you know what I mean? Like eventually you would think that you would explore as much as you possibly can. You might run into it, but how long are you actually surviving? Like that's really, you know what I mean? Like what if you just pick the wrong direction, or you go a day's hike in one direction and civilization and safety was a day and a half's hike, and you just didn't go far enough. You know what I mean?
I would never hike a day's hike away from where I knew somebody knew that I might be. That would
like a plane crash scenario.
Yeah, I would stay as close to the plane as possible for as long as I could.
So, are you guys familiar with the book? Is it The Hatchet?
Hatchet?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Hatchet, yeah.
Gary Paulson, is that
right? So, what? The plane crashes in the lake. He stays close to the plane for a super long time. Does he leave at the end, or does he get rescued?
I don't remember. I read it.
It's been a long time since I read.
School.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I read that book too.
Yeah.
But I always remember the scariest part of that story in that book was when he had to go back to the plane. You guys remember when he went back to the plane, swam out to the lake, swam down, and the pilot was in there, the dead body.
Yeah,
super scary, right? Because that was the only other person that he was with, and then they're like dead body in the lake. But again, I see what you're saying, Jake, though, is like staying close to the thing. But my point is, like, what if it's a private plane, no black box, no transponder, they have no idea where it is, you're just in the middle of a forest, like maybe like the direction that you were headed, so you have an idea bearing wise, like how long you were in the air for an hour, the plane goes however 100 miles an hour, whatever it might be, this is how far I think I am, so I might be right around here, whatever. Like, do you still stay with the plane, and how long do you stay there?
Well, you've already broken like 5 rules of survival in that scenario. Yeah, let me just go to some remote place and not tell anybody about where we're going whatsoever.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, say it's a private plane and you're flying from Denver to Juneau in Alaska, right? So that's, I mean, it's not a super long plane ride, but it's a couple hours, probably like 6-7 hours.
Yeah.
Maybe a little less depending on the speed of the plane, but like, all right, so you got the destination and the flight path, but like maybe the plane whatever, loses an engine and goes off course, I mean, yeah, they have an idea, but what's the time frame of them actually finding the plane? How long do you stay at the camp? You already survived the plane crash. Do you look for civilization? I guess it depends on what kind of supplies you have, right? Like, do you have something that you can cut with, that you can kill with, whatever it might be, right?
So I'm curious what survival book has ever said, leave the spot that you're in. Because everywhere in the world that I've been, talking to people all over, have said, if you are lost, stay still. Regardless if you started going in a direction or whatever, stay still. Like, there's been so many times that search parties and different ones have kind of looked for somebody, and then they couldn't find them because that person tried to find the lost person tried to find the people that were trying to find them.
No, and I understand that.
Like, literally, I'm pretty sure that is rule number 1 of survival is stay still. Like, don't go too far away.
But what are the lengths of that though? Like, what are we talking about? Are we talking about within eyesight, within a 15-minute walk? Like, you eventually, whether it's day 1, day 2, week 2, whatever it might be, you're going to exhaust your supplies in the area.
Yes, obviously. Okay, if there is a lake nearby, and there is no water, yeah, all right. But literally, do not go far away from a place that you know that people could find you or that would look for you.
And I think that while that might be rule number 1, I think that there obviously has to be a caveat to that, and obviously has to be kind of like a side note, or like it's circumstantial, right? Like, has to be.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, but if you're saying that, okay, you're going to the most remote place imaginable and that nobody knows that you're going to be there, okay, then I can maybe think of some scenario. However, that scenario is like hard to even fathom, because most likely if it's a plane crash, even the wreckage will, have some sort of mark on the land that you'd be able to see for the most part. So that would be a good place. I mean, maybe if there's a mountain nearby, getting to the top of that, if you think there's good visibility, but stay generally in the same spot. I think hiking from day to day, or hiking a mile out, or not a mile, sorry, a day's hike out and a day's hike back. I've gone on 30-minute hikes, and I was pretty confused on my way to get back. A full day hike and then try to get back seems really, really, really.
Well, I would also hope that you're leaving some sort of clues behind, whatever it might be.
Right.
Like,
so okay, imagine you go on your day hike, and for whatever reason it gets really cloudy and dark. You can't see anything that you left, or it rains and knocks whatever you had as your trail markers are gone.
Well, then you're just screwed.
Right. So why not be screwed and stay still?
Well, I'll tell you why. All right. So the flip side of that, that is a great rule if you're lost and people are coming to find you, whatever, and you know that they can find you. However, again, back to my scenario, what if the plane crashes and it's legitimately, like, say it crashes in the Amazon and it's literally 30 minutes, a 30-minute hike from a campsite that is heavily traveled by fishing boats, and like, it's like a major, like, inroad river that goes from the major town to this like little village, and it's literally 30 minutes away, but you don't want to leave because, like, you are hoping somebody's going to come rescue you at your campsite, and it's right over there and you don't know it, but you can't find it because you don't leave the crash site.
Yeah, I still think even in that scenario that if there's a place close enough, right, they would have heard a crash or known something's up, or would have heard reports about it in that thing, and they would come looking for you. It's better that they look for you than you look for them. Especially, it's so easy to get turned around in the wilderness. So easy, especially if you're going somewhere that you haven't been before, which
Right.
is the scenario you're putting up.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think you just accept your new fate. You become a mountain man. You just decide that this is my new home, and you just live there for the rest of your life until someone comes and finds you.
See, and that's funny because like I think that would make for like a really good like like a horror survival fantasy movie where like the plane is crashing, whatever, crashes in the ocean, and you wash up on shore, right?
Yeah.
And you're like mid survival panic, and you make a shelter in a cave, and you make a fire, and it's all Tom Hanks, like when he finally got the the fire going, and that whole thing, you get the ice skate, and then you pull out your tooth, and it's just like this massive 1 month survival thing, blah blah blah, whatever, and you're just you've run out of food, and you can't fish anymore, and you got all these health issues, and then you find out that like if you just would have went over the top of the hill where the beach is, it's like Hawaii, and there's like a major resort right there.
Yeah.
It's literally 200 yards away, but you just like never went that. You just didn't go over there because you were hoping somebody was going to come up from the sea, like to go where the wreckage was or whatever. And like it just turns out you were just right there, and they thought everybody was dead from the plane crash.
Yeah.
That's
That
a
would be
possibility.
scary. Don't
Right,
say it's
but-
an impossibility.
No. I said it's a possibility.
Oh, possibility. Okay.
Yeah. All right, Jack.
I thought you said it's an impossibility.
it's
I
a
just assumed that
possibility.
you're going to disagree with me. I'm sorry.
Well, I am disagreeing, but I'm just saying it's a higher possibility that you will get lost on your way trying to look for something while other people are trying to find you.
So what you're saying,
And like we even looked up what is basically the first rule if you are stranded somewhere. And what is it, Josh?
Have a positive mental attitude.
Check.
PMA.
Yeah. And then it says the idea is to stay put when you realize that you're lost. Don't try to backtrack. Don't panic. What I think would kind of go along with both of what you guys are saying. So you crash land in a place, you're there, you build your camp and everything, and every day you can do some exploration. You can learn your surroundings. You can learn what's near. I mean, especially like if you land someplace and there's not water nearby, you're going to have to venture out looking for water. Even if it's not a village or something like that, you have to be able to find some resources. But the longer you're there, let's say that you've survived there a week, you're going to know your surroundings pretty well, that you can venture out further without getting lost. Just the same way that I can go deep in the woods in my backyard and not be able to see a single house back there. I could spin around, my eyes closed, everything, open my eyes, and I know exactly how to get back to my house just because I've been in those woods so many times. I know everything very well. And I think that the same kind of thing would happen after you were there for a while. You would start building these landmarks and these places in your head that you would recognize and be familiar with, that you could venture out a little bit further here and there and still be very comfortable getting back home. I think what Jake's more saying is like, the day after you crash there going like, all right, I'm packing up all my stuff and I'm going to walk, 6 hours in one direction. That's probably not your best idea because now you're lost in that area, nowhere near where anyone's going to be looking for you. Where if you kind of build your base and then work outward from there, that seems like it would be the best use of your time.
Yeah. And so at the end of the day, I think the lesson or the thing you got to stick to is that you're playing the odds, right? So Jake, you're saying that it's possible that you could be right next to a 5-star resort and you can be saved, but it's more likely that you're going to get lost and not rescued if you go searching for that 5-star resort. So therefore, you play higher percentage by staying close to the camp for as long as you possibly can, right? That's what you're getting at.
Well, yeah. And on top of that, think about the amount of energy you're wasting hiking all this, and that's time that's spent away from gathering food and resources.
Yeah.
Because if you say, oh, it's a day hike, but I'm going to do all this other stuff, then that seems very unlikely.
Sure.
That you'll be able to do all that at once. And so I want to actually take a step back because I told a little bit about my experience, very, very limited experience hiking or, being in wilderness. So Jack, what sort of experience in the wilderness do you have?
So, as far as actual survival scenario, very little. However, I'm pretty experienced with, your regular camping, hunting, fishing, building a fire, cooking all over the fire, like things like that. So, aside from basic camping and camp scenario, survival, woods, hiking, etc., my survival experience itself comes from TV shows like Man vs. Wild and Survivorman, and and all of the reality television that shows us a perfect picture of what it is to survive on your own with nothing but a Bowie knife.
So this actually reminds me of something that my brother told me when we were very young. So I was probably around 8, maybe Josh was, a few years older, and we got in a skateboard, and I wanted to learn how to do an ollie. And Josh like, don't worry, I know how to do it. I saw a video or I watched a thing and I know exactly how to do it. And I said, can you do it? No, but I know exactly how you do it because I saw this thing.
Yes.
And that is what I just heard from you. So correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm in no way I'm saying I'm a survival guru or any of the sorts. But yeah, I love these shows. However, I think if you haven't done them,
no, yeah, if you haven't lived it, I don't think that it's going to even remotely compare. I think that in general, just like kind of like Boy Scouts, right? Like I wasn't a Boy Scout, but like Boy Scout handbook, I had a Boy Scout handbook, and I like the idea of having like regimented rules, like Zombieland, right? Where he has his rules and he follows his rules to a T. I think that having as much knowledge and information, while it is not as good as actual experience, it is better than having neither, right? Like
correct.
Going into a situation with no survival experience, like that's whatever. Like you still have to survive. If you have experience, that's great. That's awesome. You're going to be a step ahead of everybody else. If you have knowledge about it, if you have a brain and you can use logic and reasoning, great. Then you have a better chance than somebody just gets thrown into it that's never touched a knife in their life. Like they have no idea the first thing about making a fire or anything, right? Like they're going to be dead in a day. So I think that any of that is helpful. And yeah, I mean, I definitely have never been in a survival scenario where I was like, man, I might not make it out of this. I need to do X, Y, Z to live. Obviously being here in America, we have a lot of privileges, right? Like we don't have to worry about that kind of thing for the most part.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I mean, but those shows, and I'm glad that you kind of like brought that up, is because they're fun to watch, right? Movies and TV, survival shows, apocalyptic shows, any of those scenarios, I'm super fascinated by them because I like to see people's decisions and I like to be condescending and be like, that was stupid, you're gonna die, like when you watch it. So like Man versus Wild, we talked about Bear Grylls a little bit before the show, and like that was my favorite one. And then Survivorman kind of popped up, and I was like, it was just kind of weird because like he was recording himself, and it kind of made it look like it was more authentic than Bear Grylls, because Bear Grylls' show like had a camera crew.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So it was like, well, sir, you're probably sleeping in a sleeping bag on a blow up mattress like every night.
He was though.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's my point. It's like, so it's like, that it's not as authentic, but I liked him better than I liked the Survivorman guy, because as much as it was like reality TV and it was set up, he not only had like really extensive cool background, but he also, did the things of eating the bugs and drinking the pee, like, like all of that stuff. Like he did it, and you watched him do it, and you're just like, oh my God, that's disgusting. So as much as it is, you have that like line of reality versus what's real, he had a lot of really good information. And I think that most of what you learn from shows like that, while you know that he's not really in a life or death situation, you know that that's like solid information. Like you can use that to help yourself in a lot of ways.
So
right?
how long after you are stranded do you start drinking your own pee?
When you run out of water, of course.
Okay.
If you can't find water, you don't have a water source.
Do you start bottling your pee from the very first time you crash land?
No.
Just in case?
Although that might not be a bad idea, because if you're not drinking water, you're probably not peeing a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe.
Yummy. I don't know. My love for survival stuff started much younger.
Much younger before Man vs. Wild?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like reading Hatchet as a child. I was probably 10 when I read that. Swiss Family Robinson. That one was always a personal favorite. Any kind of movie or television show of there was all kinds of kids getting stranded in trap places in movies as kids that like I really became obsessed with that kind of stuff, like with Castaway and all that, like was fascinating. Even though like Castaway, I think that even came out when I was like 15 or 16.
No. It wasn't that. It's not that old. Because you and I are the same. Are we the same age?
I think so. We're close. I feel like it was a long time ago, but it wasn't like
2000.
I felt like it was like 2000.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was 15.
Yeah, we were
Nailed
15. Okay. Nice job. All right.
But yeah, like the Swiss Family Robinson, just getting shipwrecked and landing on a deserted island and
Treasure
doing
Island.
what they had to survive. Even though that was more about like accepting, oh, this is where our life is now and doing that kind of stuff. And it wasn't like the reality shows that we have now definitely show the grittier side to surviving in the wild instead of like the Disney family that shipwrecked on an island that caught an ostrich and a zebra and decided to race them and that kind of stuff. Like the craziest that I've seen though, the stuff that I didn't really think about when I watched shows like Naked and Afraid and all those are the bugs different places and getting eaten up by like mites or mosquitoes or whatever it is. Those type things are just absolutely insane. Or one of the more surprising ones, so I think it was episode 3 of Naked and Afraid. I was going back and rewatching some of them. I believe they're in the Maldives, which is, right off the coast of India. And it's just this gorgeous island, tropical island that they're on. The water is just gorgeous, clear blue. Everything looks so amazing. Well, they, get put on like this tiny little island. And so like the start of their journey is they have to swim over to the big island. And that's where they're going to camp out for the night. And it's, I can't remember, like an hour-long swim or something like that. So, it was like a decent amount of time that they had to be in the water to get over there. It may have been a little bit less, but, and it was quite a task to have to get over there. Well, once they get over there, the guy is so sunburned that he gets sun poisoning and can't move for like 3 or 4 days.
Dang.
And like, I know, you living down in Florida, like when I go down to the beach, like I lather up with some sunscreen.
Oh yeah.
And I've gotten some bad burns that like my ideal situation to get stranded someplace would probably be an island or whatever. But then that's with having sunscreen. I haven't even thought about like what it's like to not have even just a little thing like that you wouldn't normally think of as a necessity, like how your body gets used to it and how you would have to, train your body to kind of handle it. Cause I know like once I'm down at the beach, I normally get a sunburn the very first time summer comes around or I go down to the beach or something like that. I'll get a little bit burnt, but then my skin's good the rest of the summer. Like I almost don't have to use sunscreen the rest of the summer just cause it gets that nice base tan and now I'm good to go.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think that you're right, though. Like I said, we already talked about it. The information that you can gather is good from like books and shows and like movies and stuff like that. But the reality shows give you a little bit more of the gritty, while you still know that okay, look, there's a camera crew following. Like if they start to drown, somebody's going to go in and save them. Like they're not going to
Yeah.
die right there. You know what I mean? And I think that that's always going to be in the back of your mind. So it's not going to be as quite as like, oh, well, this is a life or death situation. But to go back to Jake's point, like I think that the more information that you have, the better. And I think that ultimately every situation, every survival situation would be different. And you would only hope that you would be logical, make the right decisions based on any sort of knowledge or any sort of understanding that you had that you've gathered, right? That's how we deal with any situation. We deal with it based on the information that we have of that situation that we've gathered already.
Well, that wasn't my point. To be clear, that was Josh's point. I know we sound similar, but I'm not exactly sure, because I think that there's a lot of false information in a lot of these shows, and could maybe give a little false confidence of like what's actually expected of you to do, or even how to go look for different stuff. For example, the Joe Rogan had a guy on his podcast that was talking about he basically lived by himself in Alaska, and he had a TV crew I think he filmed himself, or maybe had a crew every once in a while that would come film him. And the TV station, they were like, all right, we just want, tons of footage of you cutting logs, or tons of footage of you doing this. And it was much more scripted about, well, what do you think people want to see, rather than the actual ways to survive. And I think that I do agree with both of you. Like the positive thing, you have to actually believe that you can survive or you're not going to make it. But seeing one of these videos, because I know I do it myself, I watch Naked and Afraid, and I see them like whining and complaining about different stuff, and I'm just like, man, I could do that. And which is crazy. They're going in way better shape. Most of them had way more experience surviving, and they're struggling. And then I'm watching it on my couch eating potato chips, thinking, yeah, I can do that. No big deal. So I'm not convinced that it's super helpful. I think yes, some of the information can be super helpful, but I think a lot of it could be, I guess, not helpful, or it's like you end up investing yourself into something that you saw on a TV show, when it's like you could just focus on the stuff that you do know actually really well, and you just cultivate that, instead of
So you're
like,
saying
oh,
that
I
like
saw,
it builds
yeah,
up a self confidence or a false
right. It's
confidence.
just like, oh, I saw how to build a rat trap on one of these shows, and so you try to do that, instead of just like, all right, I don't know how to do that,
So I'm going
but
to dig up grubs or go
I'm going to
fishing.
dig up grubs, right? Which would be, a much better use of your time. So I'm on the fence. I mean, obviously, I love those shows. Josh
Well,
and
yeah, I
I
mean it's
both
entertainment.
grew
It's
up with
based
them.
it's based entertainment, and that's what it is. And what I meant by like that was your point was the fact that like, and I think I made my own point, is that having information, just general knowledge is better than not having any. Like I would be go so far to say like any of us have a better chance of surviving in the wilderness despite never having an actual like do or die, like life or death situation put on us. I would say that one of the three of us would have a higher chance of survival than somebody else that has never seen a survival show ever. Right?
I would agree.
Jake, would you agree with that?
I'm trying to think of the type of people that would never have seen it, and they're probably really good survivors. You know, it's like somebody living that doesn't have a TV. It's like, oh, they
No,
probably
no,
got it
no. I
figured
mean,
out.
no. I mean, just think
Yeah,
about
no, no, no.
it. Like,
I agree. I understand. However, I think I learned more about catching animals from being a 6-year-old trying to catch squirrels in my backyard than I did
from a
watching
reality
anything.
show. Yeah.
Yeah. So, sure.
I mean, I don't disagree. I just mean like in general, a wealth of knowledge about different things. Like I know how to tie a bunch of different knots, or I know how to, you know, make a fire whenever everything is wet, or whatever those kinds of things. Like if you've never seen that happen, or seen techniques, or seen anything like that on YouTube or shows, like you're literally not going to even have the slightest clue. Now, obviously, it's very different from seeing it be done and you doing it, but at the very least, you like have an idea of where to start. Whereas somebody else that has never seen that would not. They would not even know the first thing about like where do I start this? How do I even begin?
Yeah,
You know
and
what
I
I mean?
think things like water, that's been some of the stuff that blew my mind was like, you look at a river that looks like it's rushing down the mountain really fast and everything across, rapids, whatever it may be. The water looks like it would be fairly clean. It's fresh water, it's running down a mountain, it's,
Except for
clear.
the
Oh, I
bear
could
that's
drink
eating
this. But
Or the dead animal that's up the stream.
that was the kind of thing that before I knew better, like it was just water is water. And then you realize, okay, well, there's like a difference between like pond water or stagnant water or river water or well water or ocean water or, whatever. That kind of stuff, without knowing that information, can get you killed within one day.
Sure.
So I agree with Jack in the area that I don't think the knowledge is going to hurt you in this area. I think the knowledge that we have learned from seeing these shows, even if they do instill me with probably a ton of overconfidence for what I could probably handle in that situation, I've also learned the basics of this stuff, which is like staying put in areas, focus on water, focus on shelter, focus on fire. Like, I'm not going to go out there trying to make a beaver trap the first day just because I know how to do it.
Right.
I'm going to be focusing on the most essential things because that's what I've learned. Even though I know all this other stuff, I have also learned in that to focus on the essentials, make sure that you have a place to sleep, a way to get fresh water, and then you're normally going to be okay. And you can kind of start growing and experimenting from there. But I don't think that the knowledge of this stuff, unless it's just completely wrong knowledge, like
Leading
you
you
can
down
eat
the
this
path to
plant
die.
and
Yeah.
you can't eat that plant. Like that kind of getting false knowledge in that way, I think could really hurt you. But as long as the information is correct, I think it's all right to have in your little backup systems.
Yeah. All right. So now that we've all just disagreed on how to survive, and by all of us, I mean just me and Jake, why don't we take a little survival quiz? All right. And we're gonna go through the quiz as if the three of us were surviving together, and we had to we had to come to a mutual agreement. All right, on the answer. Like we had to we're gonna be sitting around the whatever the scenario is, and we gotta decide together as a group because it's better together than separate, right? So
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna go through it. It's 9 questions. And it's going to tell us whether we survive or not. Okay?
Perfect.
All right. So, question number 1.
True.
A violent lightning storm is bearing down on your high meadow campsite. You should immediately do what? All right? And then we have options. Option 1, grab your trekking poles and stab them into the dirt to ground yourself. Option B, look for a rock overhang to hide under. Option C, leave your tent for a low, sheltered spot away from tall trees and crouch on your sleeping pad. or option D, have everyone move downhill and separate from one another. All right, so what should we do? There's 3 of us in a meadow, lightning storm coming directly towards us. We're high up in the mountain.
Well, I think grabbing on to metal rods, trekking poles.
We're gonna throw that one right out. I think.
Yeah.
That's not gonna ground ourselves. That's gonna
Yeah.
basically lightning rod ourselves, right?
I guess I've always heard stay away from tall trees and get to low ground has always been things I've heard, because that's where lightning's going to strike. It's going to strike tallest.
I would say
I guess
Jack's knowledge of horror movies, separating is probably not a good idea.
not the best idea. No, we're gonna throw that one. We're throwing that one out as well, because that just
Not
says move
separate.
downhill. Move downhill and separate. Well,
So that
okay.
was-
What good is that?
So I was thinking C was the one that had get to lower ground
Yeah. Sheltered
and
spot.
and
Leave
stay
your tent.
away and stay away from tall trees.
The
Right,
only
because
other
tents
one-
sometimes have metal in them and things like that.
Correct. The only other one that's even remotely appealing is look for a rock overhang to hide under. However, we don't know if there's one of those nearby, right? And on top of that, it could be a rock overhang with a bear cave. So
Well, that's what and this is where I'm worried about this quiz, because I think this quiz is probably for one person. I think if there's 3 of us, like, we could chase that bear out of that cave and take it over.
Right, and location. I mean, like if we are in Alaska or if we're in Florida, it's going to be
this can't be in Florida because there's no mountains. So we can't be here
that's
high up in a meadow.
But even the mountains in Georgia and the mountains in Alaska are
Very
definitely
different.
different.
Yes.
And
I think that. Can we agree that we're getting away from the high meadow and headed away from the tall trees, right?
Correct.
Is that what we're going with?
Yeah.
Okay.
We
that
need
is
an actual
correct.
expert.
No, that is correct. And then it does say that we should separate if there's time. It says separating the group reduces the risk that a single strike will knock out the entire group. However, again, horror movie style, if we separate, one of us is dying either to a beast,
Yeah.
a killer.
We go down
or
together.
something supernatural. Yeah. All right. So, but we got that one right. That's so we're good so far. All right. Halfway into a week-long journey across alpine terrain, you and your friends have lost the trail. What's your next move? All right. So we're in a week-long journey, right? It's halfway through. We lost the trail. Do we A, shortcut cross-country back towards the path to avoid wasting daylight? B, retrace our steps to the last known landmark? C, stop, pitch our tent, and start signaling for help? D, climb to the top of the nearest peak to get a better view?
This goes
Now-
to our first thing.
I was going to say, now, according to Jake, the answer is C. We stop, we pitch our tent, and we start signaling for help.
But we send Jack out on his errand because I know he wants to.
Well, I'm curious, Jack, are you more for the retracing your steps to get back to the trail, or are you like me and go north, east, southwest? Yeah, if we just cut straight over that way, we're going to hit the trail.
I don't think in this scenario, I don't think the north. I mean, we're assuming we don't have a compass, right? I mean, I don't know why we wouldn't, but they're not telling us that we do. So,
But, I mean, you know northeast, south, and west without a compass. I mean, fairly well, right?
not in the middle of the woods.
What do you mean?
You
Really?
go by the sun
Or where the moss grows?
What
or
if
the
it's-
ant hills.
Yeah.
what
How do you
if
not know all this?
Wait, time out. What if there's no anthills? What if there's no moss? And what if it's super cloudy? Or it's dark?
Well, they said that it's not dark in the question.
They didn't say that.
Yes, they did. They said before it gets dark.
No, that was
In
that was
one of the
that was
answers.
the first answer, and we don't
Right.
know what time of day it is.
And what kind of idiot would be hiking at nighttime? All
Well,
right.
maybe you sleepwalked, and now you don't know where the trail is. All right, so you can tell northwest or north, south, east, west, right? So you can tell that.
Doesn't matter. Answer is C.
So your first reaction is to start signaling for help right away. You realize you're lost.
Yeah, if it says you are lost, you have lost your way from the
Because you've
trail.
lost. You've lost your trail.
Right.
So immediately you start signaling for help.
Yeah, exactly.
That is the smart thing to do. I
That's the
think it would
smart
be
thing.
way too embarrassing
Alright.
to start signaling for help that early.
See, that's what I'm saying.
Why
That's
do
what
you
I'm saying.
care?
At least you wait till the next day. Like,
Yeah.
all right, we
Yeah.
can't
All
find
right.
it.
week 3 and us being lost, we need yeah. Jack would way rather eat bugs than say he needs help.
All right. So we're gonna go with C, and we're stopping to
Wait.
pitch the tent.
But that's not what it's asking. It's asking, would you actually do C?
It says, "What's your next move?" If we're all together, this is what we're doing, because you're not gonna you guys aren't gonna follow me up to the top of the nearest cliff, like the nearest mountain, because
unless you could see us at the spot, then I think you could send somebody. As long as the other people
which
say
is what I was going to
why
say.
they set
Like,
up
we're going to go with C, as in we're stopping to pitch a tent. We can start signaling for help, but I'm probably going to try to find the path.
Yeah, venture off a little bit. I'm gonna explore. I'll get back.
At least
to
within,
like,
can you hear me? No. At least within, like, I can yell and you can yell back.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like, at least within that distance. So we're going to go with C.
Mm-hmm.
It's incorrect. Yeah. It is incorrect.
Ooh.
They are saying that C is not right.
You should just, what is it, backtrack?
It is backtrack. The answer is, and I'll tell you why.
Okay, good.
Well, let's just go on to the next question. It says, you have company, supplies, and gear, so solve this yourself. If you're still off the trail after a day or two, try C. Following option A is a major reason hikers get lost. So shortcutting back.
Yeah.
Okay. So I would like to say though that all right. So it does say that we're in a week-long journey. So I guess we could have assumed that we did have supplies and gear, but that wasn't really told in the question. So I kind of I don't know. I don't really want to take.
I mean, we were both saying that
and we're not going to die.
Both of them.
We're not going to die in choice C. It's just they say there's a better choice. And that's okay, cool.
All right. So next question. All right. The most common avalanche snow condition is what kind of snow? Hard packed snow, wet slushy snow, old wind crusted snow, or fresh wind drifted snow?
So we're all born in Florida.
I believe it's D.
Fresh wind drifted snow?
I believe so.
I thought, and I could be wrong, but I thought that it was whenever it's hard packed on top, but like so basically it was kind of warm and it started to get a little slushy, but then it got cold, and so like the top layer is really like hard packed,
heavy,
and then when it breaks, like the whole thing is super loose underneath.
I've only seen snow like twice in my whole life.
Well, I grew up in snow, but not in avalanche snow condition.
Yeah, so I will take you on this.
I have a question.
Yeah,
from the last question. I know. Okay.
Yeah.
Did it say how many days we had been hiking?
No, it said week long, and it was halfway through.
Okay, so you're 6 days through, and then
what?
No,
week long.
Week long.
Through.
Oh, sorry.
And you're halfway through, so we're at 3 days.
3 days. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Interesting.
Continue.
Yeah, I mean, I get what they're saying. I guess we should have assumed that we had we had.
Well, we all said that there's no way we'd signal for help on day one.
Right.
So we couldn't really pick that one because we said that there's no way we'd signal for help after being lost for an hour.
True.
We would have tried to find our way a little bit, and then eventually,
just for our own ego's sake.
Yeah.
All right. So, what do you think? Hard packed snow, wet slush, or fresh wind drifted? I want to say it's hard packed.
I have no idea. So Josh said D. You said
A. And you, but wet slush. I don't think wet slush because it's too heavy. Hard packed is like when it. I don't think it's fresh wind drift.
Oh, every time you see the avalanche, it looks like giant sheets are sliding down. So
yeah, all right, I'm gonna go with hard packed. Nope. It is. You're right. It's most avalanches occur shortly after storms and areas where wind drift has created pillows of wind stiffness.
So you've missed a question. Josh is the only one alive. That's what we've learned.
But no, listen, I was right though. I didn't know that that's what that answer was, because it says it has created pillows of wind stiffened snow overlying weak, unconsolidated layers. So I was right. This is what I said. I just didn't know that that's what that meant.
You know what? I love that Jack, when he gets questions wrong, he still says, "Oh, it's cool. I'm still right."
No, I mean, that's what I said. I literally
that's what I want to
just
do
said
every
that.
test for the rest of my life. Yeah, I know I got it wrong, but yeah, I'm right.
I did say that though. Did I not say that? I definitely said that.
You definitely said that.
All right. Your partner or one of us goes missing. After a few hours of searching, you find him dead.
Ooh.
You know that there are zombies around.
Oh gosh.
What is your first move? All right. So the three of us are in a zombie apocalypse. One of us goes missing. Somehow Josh ran off the trail, kind of see a shortcut, and he's dead. And we find him, and there are zombies around. What's our first move? So A, run for it. They could be there any minute. B, say a quick prayer for the repose of his soul and axe him through the head because he could come back any minute. C, cut a chunk out of his hindquarters to eat for later. It might not feel good, but it could be your last chance to survive. Dang. D, search his pockets for food. Cannibalism certainly crossed your starved mind, but since you don't know what killed him, you don't want to risk it.
Definitely D.
D?
Yeah.
You think? D? You're searching him for food, but and you're not going to eat him, so...
Yeah, you search the body to figure out what it all has on it, if there's anything of use. You're not going to eat the body because if he was bitten or infected by something, you're definitely not going to do that.
So are we? We're
friend.
cannibals. We're cannibals. So
yeah, but if you believe he was, I mean, if you know there's zombies in the area and they're dead, most likely killed by zombies. I mean, if you could tell that they 100% weren't, then you know.
Wait, you don't think? But you don't think B though? You don't think he needs an axe through the head?
No, not if it's your friend.
But he's dead. He's gonna come back and try to eat you then.
Yes, give him a fighting chance. Don't.
So then you kill him.
Shoot me when I'm down.
All right. Jake,
we're friends.
Oh, I'll be the dead guy in this one.
All right, you're the dead guy. All right, so Jake's the dead guy. We're searching him for food. Josh, I think we want to search him, but we need to get out of there. So it's like A, B, and D are like pretty viable options, to be honest with you. Like you could
I would more take the katana chick from Walking Dead.
Oh yeah,
where we just removed Jacob's jaw and teeth and bring him along.
Yeah, that's cool.
Well, sifting through the pockets.
Okay, all right. So let's search his pockets. It's incorrect.
Of course it is. They want you to put a spike through your friend's head.
Yeah, they do. It's a little gruesome, but removing the head isn't good enough. You don't want your buddy coming back, and you're going to have to destroy his brain. After that, D is up to you. So technically, again...
Why do we know that the virus is in the brain?
Apparently we do. I don't know. This quiz is rigged. I'm going to write the owner.
Once again, Jack gets it wrong, but he's still right.
All right.
And say I didn't agree with any A, B, C, or D on that one, so I wrote in an answer.
That's
right. And I'm happy with it.
The three of us are scrambling up a steep Colorado Fortinier in June. It's snowier than you expected, and you don't have an ice axe or crampons. You should keep going for a few pitches to check out the route and then retreat if it's too tough. B, go for it. The snow will soften in the sun as the day progresses, making the descent considerably safer. C, slide right back down. Or D, retreat via the least snowy, least technical route you can find.
So, just so we do a little shout out, what quiz is this?
This is from backpacker.com. It's Would You Survive? Now, this was made in 2018, so maybe it's missing a few updated information, like we have things to help us survive from 2020. But
interesting.
Backpacker.com. Shout out to backpacker.com. Your quiz is interesting. That's what we'll go with, just in case you want to sponsor us.
Give me a backpack.
Well, it's just funny because it's like I know in my head certain times what I feel like the right answer is, but then I also know what I would do because I feel like that there's kind of an in-between on some of these.
Yeah.
Where it's like in that situation, I feel like I'm able to assess the danger that I'm dealing with fairly well to be able to know like when I am in over my head. Where like I assume the right answer to this one is finding the least snowy and
Least
less
technical,
technical
yeah.
way to get back down to a safer spot, and not just let's run up the hill and see if it's any more dangerous.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound like the best idea. But then at the same time, I know if I'm on a snowy mountain and we're like, all right, we're not going up any further because it looks like it's going to be kind of crappy up there, I'm sliding my ass down a little bit. That's going to be fun as hell. And just going to slide my way down as long as it's safe. Like, I'm afraid of heights, so I'm probably not going to do this in an area that I feel like is super dangerous, but I'm going to do it in a way that sounds fun.
Okay.
But, yeah.
What do you think, Jake? We're retreating, right? We're going back down. We're not risking it.
We're not going to risk the biscuit.
No. I don't
Yeah,
think so.
I think the thing counting on the snow to melt is
No,
not
yeah, I
a
don't think
good
you can
idea.
do that. And then also, it says we don't have an ice axe, and it's snowier than we expected.
Or crumpets.
Yeah.
Is that what it said?
We can't have tea. It's crampons, not crumpets.
Crampons.
All right, we're going with D. Correct. It's easier to fall on a descent, even in soft snow, and you have no tools in which to self-arrest. All right.
Yeah.
Good. We got that one right. All right. Moving on. The three of us suddenly realize we're lost in a deep forest. What's your first move? A. Follow the closest creek downstream until it meets a river, because rivers always lead to civilization. B. Find shelter, stay warm and dry, and wait for rescue. C. Note your location and surrounding landmarks carefully, then retrace your steps to the last point where you knew you were en route.
So they're in all of these, they seem to assume that we could trace our steps. But if we're lost, that's to me implying that we can't retrace our steps. But maybe that's not exactly true. I just know if I've gone hiking and I've gotten off the trail, sometimes it's really difficult and it takes me way longer to try to retrace my steps.
Yeah.
But those are just like day hikes, nothing super serious. The thing about civilizations always downriver is total crap.
Yeah. No. There's
Totally
no way
fine.
that that's
Name
right.
a river
That could
that
be
there's not a civilization
Well,
at the end
it
of
says
it.
a creek. It doesn't say a river.
Yeah, well, you
this
follow
creek
the creek
downstream
to
into
the
a
river.
river. Creeks don't always go to rivers. Sometimes they go to lakes.
Nothing. Or go to nothing.
And sometimes they just fizzle. That's definitely, and that could be miles and miles and miles and miles. There's just no way that you could do that and be safe. Find shelter, stay warm and dry, wait for rescue. I mean, again, talking about what we did, Jake, that's like number one. But the problem is like, okay, so the question is, you suddenly realize you're lost. Were we on a trail? Where, like, do people know that we're there? Like, you know, what kind of time frame are we talking about before somebody's going to come looking for us off this trail? Right?
Does it say how much supplies?
No, it doesn't. It just says you suddenly realize you're lost in deep forest. Yeah. Well, I just like woke up and I'm just in the middle of a forest. Like, oh shit, what do I do?
Yeah, you stop right there. This is your new life. You're now mountain men for the next couple of weeks until someone finds you.
I like the idea of notating the location and surrounding landmarks and stuff, but like we're talking about deep forest. So what kind of landmarks and surrounding, like, what are we
maybe
notating?
But what did it say beyond that? So you're notating your surroundings, but does it say
and
that
then
you're
retracing your steps to the last point where you knew where you were en route?
Yeah, I don't know that that's always possible.
That's the thing. I don't think any of us have ever been lost. Like, lost to the point that we're like flat out lost and could not find our way back. And that's why it's hard for us to imagine like not being able to retrace my steps. Like, anytime I've ever been in the woods, as far out as I've gone, like miles and miles into the woods, I don't think I was ever like, oh shit, like I'm lost. Like, I don't know where to go. Like, I always felt comfortable with where I was at.
Right, but I've been in places where I was totally out of my element, that it's like, if I was put there and I know that I've hiked around that area, but if you ask me how do I get back, it would be a real challenge. Like, you need a lot of time. Like, okay, if it's a trail that you've hiked 100 times and you get a little bit off, yeah, you'll probably pick up like, oh, okay, yeah, I remember that marker. But if it's like the first time you've hiked that trail, no way. No way. Because even if you see it, be like, kind of looks like the tree I saw before, but maybe they're just similar. And then like even time of day that you see it, it may look totally different.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I would
So
play it safe.
we're going with B.
Well, okay, but what would we actually do?
I think that's if suddenly we just realize we're lost in this deep forest, I don't really think that there's an option for notating surroundings. I would be very surprised if they say that that's the right thing to do, to retrace your steps, because if you're just lost in deep forest, like everything looks the same. Like we're talking deep forest, everything is trees, everything is just thick. You can't really see up, down, left, right. Like it's just thick trees. That's what they're saying. That's my interpretation of deep forest.
I feel like it's got to be a mixture between the two, because you got to know, like, we're walking, then all of a sudden we're like, shit, I don't think we're going the right direction. Do you know where we're at? And we're like, nah, I don't think so. It's like, well, crap. Okay, let's turn around. Let's try heading back to the trail. We're going to try to retrace our steps if we can. If after like 20, 30 minutes, we're like, man, we're not getting anywhere. I think at that point or an hour later, whatever it is, that's where we're going to stop. I don't think that we're just going to go, shit, I'm lost. All right, we're setting up camp here.
Yeah.
We're going to go like...
We're going to try to look and try to get back on track.
We're going to try to fix our mistake before we realize that we're in...
But that could also make it worse, right? Like we've already discussed, like you could be trying to retrace your steps and going in the complete wrong direction.
Right.
And going further away from the path.
But... is that the look at surrounding and then try to retrace steps? Oh, like it says like what we would do first, right?
It says what's your first move?
Yeah.
First move is to retrace steps.
So
if I'm honest.
Okay, so that's what we're going to go with. We'll go with C because we're not just going to initially just set up camp, right?
Not just give up and be like, I'm lost. I don't know what to do.
There's just not enough information. Like we don't know how much supplies we have. We don't know if we have a tent.
If they say that it's B, then again, I'm calling out backpacker.com for just not giving us enough information for this question. So we're going with C. It is correct. If that doesn't work, go with B. Yeah.
There we go.
It does say that A is a myth. So there you go, Jake. It is a myth. Rivers do not always lead to civilization.
I didn't learn that on the
Prove
show.
me wrong.
Oh my.
Find a river that doesn't
it's not
somewhere
a river,
end
it's
up
a creek. Totally different.
It says a creek that meets until it meets a river.
Creeks sometimes have like a million fingers. Not all of them go to rivers.
But every river goes to civilization.
I don't think so.
But it's not every creek.
Yeah, but I think
every
that's
river
the
does.
river.
I don't think every river does. I think if you looked at actual rivers in the world, I don't think every river. I'm sure that I could, honestly.
All right,
here we go. Next question.
Tweet me.
Our group just summited a peak, and some of us are descending faster than others. As the leader, which could be any one of us, should you round them up? So options are, like say the three of us are hiking and we're coming down the other side or whatever, and Jake starts to get out super far ahead, and Josh, you're in front of me even, and maybe it's to the point where like Jake's about to get out of vision. So option A is relax and enjoy the hike. They might get spread out, but all they have to do is drop back down the same way they came. Besides, you have someone we trust. So I'm the person that we trust in the back. Okay. B, sort of split the experienced members of the group to form two distinct hiking groups, which is there's only three of us, so no. C, yes, by telling the slower people to speed up. So I'm telling myself to catch up. Or just yes, keep everybody together. That's the safest.
I would say D, just keep everyone within either side or yelling distance. I mean,
keep up. Get your move on.
Tell the people
what you waiting on, bud.
I'm in a
rush.
I've never hiked anywhere like, I mean, even like hiking Pikes Peak and stuff like that I've been able to do. They're all like fairly popular trails. So like I've never done anything. So it's like, I meant like on those kind of things, it's very easy. If someone wants to run ahead, so people want to lag behind, because we're all going the same way. We all know, follow the trail, you get to the car kind of thing.
Right.
I would assume that we're smart enough that if we're not in one of those kind of situations, that's like, hey, stay within like sight. you know.
Well, here's the thing though, we're assuming that like in this scenario we're off by ourselves, right? You split up, you increase the chance that like something happens to either the person in the back, the person in the front. Like, what if Jake's out of sight and a mountain lion is like around the corner and uses that opportunity to jump on him because he's not with a group of people? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or the person in the back slips and falls down the trail, and before you realize, because you're in front of me, you realize I'm off the trail and down the hill. Maybe I have a broken leg, and like I tried to call out to you, but like hit my head and got knocked out. Like, and you don't know it. So then now all of a sudden you look back and I'm just missing.
Mm-hmm.
I think we keep everybody together.
Yeah.
Agreed?
I agree.
Sure.
That is correct. All right. Dividing the group into two parties or multiple parties reduces your pool of potential rescuers in the event of an emergency. Yep. Excellent. And letting the group string out along the path increases the risk that someone will make a wrong turn or something might happen. Always keep them tight. Boom. We got it. We're surviving. All right. 2 more questions. While crossing a class 3 pass, you encounter a cliff that requires sketchier rock climbing moves than you expected. What now? All right.
Go home.
Look for a route that avoids the hazard or turn back.
Mm-hmm.
B, buck up and climb on. 2 minutes and you'll be in the clear. C, make a cell call to your spouse and tell her what you're going to try. Or D, rig a safety line with tent cord or your bear bagging rope. I mean, this is pretty obvious, right?
And then
look for a route.
It.
Yeah, and then
hey, y'all, watch this. Like, hell
look
no.
for a route that avoids the hazard or turn back.
It says it's like scarier than it looks. It doesn't mean that you don't have the skill to do it.
It says that requires sketchier rock climbing moves than you expected.
They're sketchier, but maybe you are a world-renowned climber.
If I'm a world-renowned climber and there's a maneuver that looks sketchier than I expected to me, I probably can't handle it. Because if I'm a world-renowned, I've probably seen most things. Just saying. I don't think any of these other ones make any sense. It says buck up and climb on. Nah, I mean, what? You just go for it. You might die, but it's fine. Make a cell call? No. Rig a safety line with tent cord? Bro, if you fall off a rock with tent cord, you're dying. Like, that's bottom line.
You're dead.
All right, so we're going to look for a route that avoids a hazard.
I think we lost an opportunity to get some tent sponsors. Let's get this so-and-so tent company. I mean, if it's their cables, all right? There's like tent cords, and
if it's theirs, then we'll definitely go for it.
Yeah.
All right, that is correct. Unroped falls, often solo, are the most common wilderness killers. So you don't do it. All right, last question. The safest way to cross a raging, rain-swollen river that is more than hip deep is barefoot, with sandals, with boots on, in a wetsuit, with a life preserver, or not at all.
Not at all is the safest way, but if your goal is to get across the river,
Wait,
I would assume you have to actually get across the river.
Is the safest way to cross it? Well, not at all. Well, that's not really crossing it now, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely you want shoes on. Definitely want shoes on. If there's a way to have barefoot, there's too many things you could step on.
Slip or step on, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I like the life vest idea and the wetsuit idea too.
Neither of those things are going to help you. Well, a life preserver would help you when you float downstream.
Yeah, to the nearest civilization.
Okay. Yeah. Wetsuit, all right.
But sandals, I don't think sandals would be a good idea.
They'll
rip off. Caught on something.
Yeah. A boot.
It's super hard to swim in sandals.
All right. So the real answer here is that everybody knows that you're not supposed to cross a raging, rain-swollen river. That's like, you know that, right? But the question is the safest way to cross it. So
that's what I'm saying. A life vest would be the safest way.
I'm going to want to throw this out there once again. Backpacker.com. If the answer is not at all, I feel like we have grounds to sue.
I think we should actually, because if we are faced with this and it is rain swollen, and you see like, I mean, I've been down like lazy rivers that like took my feet out from under me.
Yeah.
Right. A raging river, you would have no
It's
chance.
more than hip deep. That's like literally up to your chest. If it's like you're not even going to be able to stand. I don't get it.
Yeah. I mean, like maybe there's a way to cross it, but not from any of the options that they gave us.
Maybe there's a rope that you can hold on to. So like with boots and a rope, like you can kind of hold on to the rope and then go. But like raging rain swollen river, the biggest threat in those, not just the water, is the debris, trees and logs and stuff in the water that's being swept downstream by the current. Like you
River
get
sharks.
oh god, you get halfway out in the middle, and you're holding onto the rope, and here comes a 6x6 oak tree and just knocks you off. And in that case, you're gonna want the life preserver.
Yeah, exactly.
Or the wetsuit.
Or the wetsuit. Can we go with the combination of wetsuit, life preserver, and boots? Are we able to do that?
While I'm not crossing it.
Yeah, well, not crossing.
Well, I'm not going out of it. Right, so
we're
are
just
we
there
not-
on the side holding all our gear. It's like, screw this.
Are we going with not at all? We have to, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this
Even
is
though it
what we
says-
would do. What we
Yeah,
would do.
I'm
The
not
best way to
crossing.
cross it is to not cross it.
Not cross it. All right, I'm going with that. That's correct.
Yeah.
It's better to
Find a
hunker
rope
down
swing.
for a rescue, retreat hungry, or wait for low water than to attempt a dangerous white water crossing. So again, backpacker, we went with what we would do. However, that is a very misleading question.
Yeah. It's
All
pretty
right.
silly.
So now it's time at the end of the level. This was the final boss, by the way. This quiz. Would we survive? Do you guys think we survived?
I think we survived so good.
No, we got killed by that zombie that we didn't put on. Oh, that was me.
That was you.
Me.
We got killed by
I took
you.
you guys out. Yeah. So
All
we
right.
didn't survive.
All right.
And that was
I
the
think
most realistic question
I
that
think
we had.
I think we survived only because I think the 2 questions or 3 questions that we missed were just bogus questions.
Yeah.
We weren't given enough information. And as like Jake said, even though we missed, we got it right.
Yeah. Naked
So-
ain't afraid, not even a little bit.
Not even a little bit. All right, here we go. And the results are result. All right. Welcome to the great middle ground of risk. You might get the chance to pass on your genes, but those lapses add up the more you roll the dice. I guess what they're trying to say is if we continue with our path and logic, we just might survive, but it's not guaranteed.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. Honestly, with those bogus questions, we got 66%, which was 6 out of 9. I mean, those 3 questions could have went either way. And I feel like that we're in a good spot. And I feel like I'm definitely more equipped after this episode to handle whatever life might throw at me in a survival situation.
I think our listeners are too.
Don't
For sure.
Because
Go try to-
knowledge is power. Learning about this stuff will help you. So
I think
listen
so.
to our podcast, unlike what Jacob says, which you don't need to listen or know anything because that's going to hinder you.
because what do I know about survival? What-
Backpacker.com just said we would most likely survive.
With questions about zombies.
Yes, true.
Yeah.
All right. So, one final thought before we end, because that was the final boss. We defeated it. I think we survived. We did a great job.
Mhm.
What I want to go through all 3 of us, and what is your ideal survival scenario? If you had to pick of this is my life or death scenario, I think I want that one, and I want to escape, and that's the one that I want. Josh, what would it be?
The show Lost.
Where you crash on an island with what was a plane crash on an island?
Yeah.
There's no other people around. It's just you.
That's cool. As long as it's like a gorgeous island like that. Like
Okay,
that's
so
the
you
kind of
want-
place that I could live out the rest of my life.
So you're not
That
trying
would be
to
cool.
escape. You're just trying to survive and live.
Swiss Family Robinson.
Yeah, if I
style.
wanted to escape, I would say like crash in Atlanta. Like,
Okay.
no, if I had to crash someplace, I don't do cold
Crash
water.
in my backyard.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Does you want the deserted island?
Yes.
What about you,
All right.
Jack?
Me, I mean, unfortunately, I have to go with the same thing. I want the deserted island. I think there's a lot. At the end of the day, if you end up not getting rescued, it's fine. Like
Still got
you
coconut.
can Robinson Crusoe it. You're good.
Mhm.
There's probably going to be some pirates that show up at some point. You're going to have to fight. Like it's no
Or
big deal.
join.
Or join them, and then you could end up back in the mainland after a 5-year at sea hiatus of being a pirate.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely would go with Deserted Island. I think that fishing, hunting, using coconuts as clothing. I think that it's all up there. It's easy.
Mm-hmm. Easy.
What about you,
peasy.
Jake?
You guys are idiots. That's all I gotta say.
All right,
Are you? That seems like a horrible place to try to survive. It's so hard to find fresh water because everything you even dig is going to be like salt water.
What do you mean? You got to just boil it. You boil the water and sift it. You're good.
That's so easy to do. Yeah, so easy. Oh my gosh, you guys are idiots. Oh, okay.
What about you?
Like a sort of like mountains in Georgia type thing, because it's what I'm used to. I know the plants, I know the animals, I know what I can find. I know.
So he's getting lost on the Appalachian Trail.
Yeah. So that would make so much more sense because it's stuff that I've actually seen and experienced. I don't think Josh has much experience
on a
deserted island.
All I hear right now is you going wah wah wah. That's all I hear.
Yeah, because you guys are idiots. That's what I said. What do you guys? That's like, let's go to a place I've never had to go out in the wind before.
He lives in Florida.
I live in Florida on an island.
Well, you live in Clearwater.
Yeah. So it's on the Gulf, man.
Yeah, that I
got
jungle.
Alligators here. I got Florida man, Florida woman. I got all kinds of things I got to survive. I have the worst drivers in the country here.
Yeah,
I have the third worst water in the country here. I mean, I got all kinds of things. I mean, come on.
Okay. Yeah, you both
Carol
are right.
Baskin.
Yeah, Carol Baskin.
I got Carol Baskin 20 minutes down the street.
All right.
It's a wonder I haven't been fed to a tiger yet.
Yeah. Gosh. All right.
But anyways, all right. Now that we know Jake thinks we're idiots, he's never going to be on the show again. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode where the much asked for guest will never appear as a guest again. But thank you for your insight, Jacob. I think we learned that you in your experience in the Amazon, which actually was very interesting. So thanks for sharing. Super cool.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I had a lot of fun talking about survival and of course the quiz being the final boss. But as usual, you can find us on YouTube, iTunes, Google Play, wherever you're listening right now. We also have Instagram and Twitter. If you haven't followed us there, please do so. And you can ask us or tell us how stupid and or smart we are, depending on the answers that we've already given. We'd love to hear from you. And if you have any other suggestions for the show, please let us know. And from all of us at the Bonus Level Podcast, plus our highly esteemed guest that will never be returning, thank you for listening and have a great week.
Later, taters.
Love ya. 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 Love ya.